I never know what these things about technical difficulties and
Dude,
shoot.
tell me about it. I was like, all right, let me see how this thing works, how we were able to get through it. And
Yeah,
I
man.
actually ended up watching like YouTube videos last night. I'm
That's
like,
the
you
hey,
never
that's the
know.
way to go, bro. That's shoot. I
Is the
mean, everything's
universe,
out there for us to learn from, right? So
dude, University of YouTube.
that's
Can't
what
hate
I
on it.
University of YouTube,
I
man.
know, right? Can't
Shoot.
hate on it. How you been, man?
I've been good, brother. I
Yeah.
shoot. I mean, it's all perspective, right? It could be worse if that's the way we choose to look at things. But yeah, even after last year, I feel I'm still in a good place. I'm very fortunate. Feel very
Yeah,
blessed, man.
that's good. Hold on. I went to Mother's and got a juice from my
Oh,
sister's
okay. There
wife.
you go. Hey, how old is your daughter now?
She is 9, dude. She's turning
Damn.
10 this year. Yeah.
Shoot, bro.
She's and uh there's another one on the way.
Hey, congratulations.
Thank you, man. I
Hey.
appreciate that, you
Yeah,
know.
man.
Yeah, we don't know what it is, but as long as
Yeah.
it's a healthy baby,
That's
that's all
amen.
that matters. You
Amen to
know,
that, bro.
I
Amen to
don't
that, man.
I don't care what it
Yeah.
is, you know, I just
Yeah.
it's gonna have the same love as my
Oh,
daughter. That's it.
amen. Yeah. That's all that matters, bro. Healthy children, healthy pregnancy, so
Absolutely. You
good for
just
you,
had a
man, for
recent one
doing
as
this
well, right?
huh?
You just had one as well, didn't you? Or like a year ago, 2 years ago?
Yeah, he's gonna be five. He's gonna be
5
five in July. Yeah,
Yeah,
and then
man.
my daughter, she's off to college in the summer. You know, so I got one going
Jesus.
off to college and one starting all over again. One
How is
starting
that?
kindergarten.
How is
I'm
that
right back in
having
it, dude.
how is
Shoot.
that having
It's cool, man. I
a
mean,
young
I've just,
adult time?
the one thing I've loved is being a dad, man. I mean, I love being a dad, So
Yeah.
with my daughter going off to college, without my son, there would be a void there.
Mm-hmm.
Even
Yep.
though I prepared for her to leave. I mean, she's ready to go and I'm ready for her to grow and experience life. But like
Right.
that sort of regular dad stuff that you do on a regular basis would have been empty for a while.
Yeah,
So I get to do
absolutely.
it all again now with my son, which is amazing. So,
Yeah. I mean, yeah, so I started this podcast, I would say like halfway through COVID and just
yeah,
kind of like contemplated on it. I
yeah,
was like, you know what, should I do it?
yeah,
Should I not? And then
yeah,
I threw a first episode, and that episode was just mainly um talking about COVID, and it
yeah,
was just mostly like giving a thank you to a lot of my clients that
yeah,
during COVID I was losing my head. I'm a social
yeah,
butterfly, so being at
yeah,
home,
yeah,
it was just one of those times, and that one was mainly dedicated the first episode to a lot of my friends from my gym that
yeah,
it just happened to be one day that they were like, "Hey, dude,
yeah,
come to my house," and
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah, yeah,
"All right."
yeah.
Gets me out of the house for like an hour or
You
two, and
know,
next thing you know, it was like 9 people there, and it was just turned into a big barbecue. And I was
yeah,
cutting hair, and I was like overwhelmed because I'm like, dude, I haven't seen
yeah,
nobody in weeks.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that episode, and I threw it out there. I had one of my buddies listen to it, and he was like, dude, you got
yeah,
something good going on. I think
yeah,
you should keep going.
yeah,
And I was like, you know what? I would love to have barbers in different walks of life
yeah,
just tell their story,
yeah.
how they began,
Right, right.
one funny moment that you held, throughout your
Yeah,
career as a
yeah,
barber that, you always
yeah,
bring it up to a client, be
yeah,
like, oh man, I got a story to tell,
yeah,
and,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
some
yeah,
fun times, the struggles, because a lot of clients don't know what we've gone through, as
yeah,
far as going to barber school,
yeah,
full
yeah,
time barber,
yeah,
making a minimum wage or no
yeah,
wage.
yeah,
So, I decided to just throw it out there. And, I had George from American Barbershop.
yeah, man. George, good
That
old
was
George. Yeah,
a good one. And then I had Roland.
yeah,
He worked with them. He just
yeah,
opened up his shop. It's a
yeah,
beautiful
yeah,
shop.
yeah. Beautiful shot, man. Shoot.
Yeah. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna hit up Leche, this,
Yeah.
great barber that his career just took off, dude, in a
Oh,
different direction. And
yeah,
big platform artist and
yeah, yeah,
super humble dude. Reached out to him and I was like, hey, dude, would you mind? And
yeah,
I know you're in LA. I'm all the way in
yeah,
Orange
yeah,
County. It's a distance.
yeah,
We can meet halfway. He's like, dude, I'm gonna be in Santa Ana. I was like, done, let's do it, you know. And then yesterday I was like, you know what? I'm gonna reach out to Mark, see if he wants to
Oh yeah, man. Thank
jump
you.
in. And
Yeah, of
then like
course. I'm always
you
down
reached
to help.
quick. I was like, what? This is awesome. I got Mark. And then you said in the morning. I'm like, perfect. We'll have some coffee, some juice, and just
There you go, man.
talk,
Yeah. It's a privilege and an honor, man. I appreciate you as long as we've been knowing each other through social media,
Yeah.
so I would, yeah, jump at the opportunity, bro. Thank you.
Nah, thank you for taking the time and chit chat with me.
Yeah.
So how did you get started in the barman industry?
Yeah, that's shoot. It was more just opportunity knocking at my door when you least expect it, and
Right.
most of us are fortunate. Most of us that have come into barbering, maybe we were fortunate enough, especially at later years after we've had previous careers, to say like, if I had a chance to do something different, if there's an opportunity to do something different, I would be a barber, right? And it
Right.
marinates and it sits with us for a long time for whatever our previous careers may be. And so that's kind of what happened to me. I was working in banking and mortgages and insurance. My degree's in business administration. So I did that for about 17 years. And then the housing market crashed in 2008.
Yeah.
I was working as an underwriter for a bank, and bank went under. So they said, well, before it went under, they were laying people off. They said, well, here's your severance check. And I was sitting at my desk, man, and I was like 38 at the time. And I was sitting at the desk, I had a check in my hand. It was like 3,500 bucks, man. And I didn't have nothing. I realized at that point at 38, like I had nothing to show for myself after 17 years of working for other people, man. I had no savings account. I had no ambitions other than to just go to work every day and get
Right.
that check. So yeah, it was that aha moment. Said, well, this is God telling you, like, you wanted that fork in the road and that opportunity window, like it's now or never, right? So I was like, well,
Right.
shoot, maybe this is the time to get into doing something I really want to do for myself, and something that would allow me to spend more time with my daughter as a single dad
Right.
that doesn't have family out here. So I sat at my desk and started writing down things that were important to me going into something different, something new. And it was like music, art, fashion, design. Um, Originally I went to college for a fine art degree and switched it to business because I got intimidated when I saw the other kids work in college, their portfolios
Right.
and stuff. So like I've always had a art side to me. So I figured that this would allow me to go full circle and come back into doing stuff that I enjoyed doing as a kid. And
Right.
the rest is history. I just looked it up and how to become a barber, and I saw there was like trade schools, and uh, did as much of the licensing that I could while I was out of work, right? While
Yeah.
unemployment was paying me for the trade. So I did cosmetology school, did the barbering crossover, did my barbering instructor certification. Even though the state doesn't require it anymore, I still did the extra
Yeah.
600 hours just to get the certificate in case one day I wanted to open up a school.
Yep.
Got to do some work for like American Crew. I was just knocking stuff off. I hadn't even been in a shop yet. I was like checking stuff off,
You were
checking
just
stuff off.
checking things
I was
off
just checking off, right? And then by the time I got to my first barbershop, like I had all this experience on paper, but I
right
had no like actual behind the chair
behind
experience.
the chair.
Yeah.
And that's crazy, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, because same with me. I've
Yeah.
I used to work on security. So
Yeah.
when I was laid off, I used the unemployment,
Yeah.
unemployment for
Yeah.
your trade school. And I was
Yeah.
like, should I go work in construction? I'm like,
Yeah.
I did that right out of high school, work in
Yeah. Yeah.
Bakersfield. I'm like, no
Yeah.
way, I'm going
That's a
back there.
young man's. That's a young
I
man's
was like, I'm not going back
journey.
there. And I'm like,
Yeah.
screw that. So I
Yeah.
was like, you know what, barber. And then one of my
Yeah.
really good friends, Abraham Lopez,
Okay.
we went to high school together. He's been cutting hair forever, dude. That dude has been cutting hair, I gotta say, 20 years now.
Wow. Yeah.
So he went to this barber school in City of Orange, and
Okay.
I was like, dude, where'd you go to school? And he gave me the info. I went, showed up, and it was like an all Asian school. Nobody
Yeah.
spoke English, and so
Yeah.
there was like myself and three other guys, and then
Yeah.
eventually more guys got involved in barbering.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
just became
Yeah.
like a crew, you
Yeah.
know. And yeah, same thing. And I met George through Ron Talley from
Okay, Ron.
that.
I know Ron Telly. Yeah.
Yeah, I met him through through Ron, and then found out that George was opening up in Santa Ana,
Yeah.
and I was like, dude, it's my hometown. I'm like,
Yeah.
let me get in, and
Yeah.
the rest was history. Then I
Yeah.
met Pedro and Scott, owner of Razorbacks,
Okay. Yeah.
Imperial Barber Products,
Yeah.
and then they taught me all the traditional stuff. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it
Yeah.
just it took off.
But you've had some good you've crossed paths with a lot of good like solid foundation barbers through your career
Yeah,
early, huh? And that
yeah,
definitely sets you up for success, man, to be able to have like, that kind of exposure and work in those kinds of places and be around those kinds of people. You
right.
know? Yeah,
Yeah, and it was crazy because I I knew about Pedro and Scott, and then
yeah,
when they offered me to come and be with them and
yeah,
be part of their clan, I was like,
yeah,
I'm up for it.
yeah.
And then I remember when I showed up the first day at the barbershop, I took out all my plastic guards out, and Pedro was like, "What the hell are those?" And I was like, "I'm like, this is high cut hair." He's like, "What?" He's
Yeah.
looking at me like I'm crazy, man.
Yeah.
And Pedro's gonna laugh when he hears this shit because he's
Yeah.
done it to numerous barbers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he goes, "You use all this crap?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man." And he's like, "You don't need this shit." I was
Yeah.
like, "What do you mean?"
Yeah.
He goes, "No." He grabs the trash can, dude. I swear, and he just dumps
Yeah.
all my plastic
That's
guards.
cold.
I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, dude." He gives me a flat top comb.
Yeah.
He gives me and a sheer comb,
Yeah.
and he goes, "You have a master's?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes,
Yeah.
"All right, this is how you're gonna learn how to cut
Yeah.
hair."
Yeah. Yeah. There you go.
And I was like, "But I need my guards." He goes,
Yeah. Yeah.
"Not in my shop, dude.
Yeah.
We're gonna teach you the
Yeah.
old school way." And I was
Yeah.
like, "What?"
Yeah.
So I figure it out, and
Yeah.
next thing you know, that's all I
Yeah.
been using for the remaining years, and
Yeah.
I hold that to dear when I'm like, "Oh yeah, man! Like I learned everything the old school tradition
Yeah.
of
Yeah. Yeah.
blending."
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's almost
Page,
an insult to the OGs when you pull out something that's got like, oh, what is this? Yellow, red, green, blue.
right, dude. And
Oh,
I was like, "Oh my god, dude!" I'm like, "What did I get myself into?" Because that first day, I was booked all day.
yeah.
So I was like, "Oh my
Yeah.
god, what am I gonna
Hold
do
on.
now?"
Yeah.
Like he just took all my guards.
When he's not looking, you're like,
Start taking them out of the trash can.
I'll empty the trash today, boss. I'll
So
get my shit
yeah,
back.
for real, dude. But I'm very thankful. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure Paige is gonna hear this shit and could be like, "Yep, I did that."
Yeah,
And
but I had the same experiences. Like the first barbershop that I landed at is Barber Dan, my mentor, and I feature him a lot of my social media platforms because to this day he's like a father figure to me.
yeah,
And so like he's been at it this year, I think like be like 51 years he's been barbering. So yeah, like he's very much that same way, right? So I showed up and he was hiring for a second chair and I brought him my resume. I thought I was I had a resume. Like this guy look at my resume, had all this stuff. And then by the time I actually, he thought he's getting like some kind of what do you call those? Like some kind of cutting phenom. What do you call those ones that like they're
oh,
not a protege, but well, you know what I'm talking about.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
some
I
guy
know
that's
what
just
you're talking
amazing,
about.
right?
Yeah,
And first day, man, like he see me struggling over there. He's like, "What the hell is this, man?" And like, so the course of that I was with him was like tough love learning, like old school barber learning. Like they tell you as there's no filter. They tell you how you suck. And I did my first flat top and I never did a flat top before, but I see him doing because he's that shop with just flat tops and all kinds of old stuff, right?
yeah,
I got my first flat top, man, and I thought I did okay, man. For the first one, I mean, I was sweating doing it, but the guy looked at it at the end and he said, "Oh, that's good," and paid me, because he didn't want to wait for the old man. And the shop had like a lot of people in there. And then as the guy is walking out, my barber then goes, "Oh, that's the worst flat top I ever seen." I'm like, "God damn, man."
oh, dude,
In a crowded shop. I was like,
yeah,
"Man, that's like you're supposed to have like a side conversation with me like that. Like, tell me
no,
what I did wrong." Those OGs like, "Fuck no."
yeah,
So the second time I had another one, I was like, "Man, I'm gonna show this dude I got better." And then when he was leaving, he goes, "No, you're not getting any better." Like, oh, shit.
oh man, dude, I could just imagine. And
Yeah.
that happened to me too, dude. So in 2012 there was a very first barber battle,
Mm,
by Exotics. All these,
mm, mhm.
big names were coming out to LA,
Yeah,
and they had the fastest fade
of
battle, like
course. Yeah,
a two on top, skin fade, mid fade,
yeah,
boom,
yeah,
who could do it the fastest.
yeah,
So for weeks, I was just practicing,
Yeah, yeah,
right? And then George tells me, "You know where you're gonna learn how to cut hair fast?" And I'm
yeah,
like, "Where?" He goes, "You gotta go down in San Clemente." And
yeah,
I'm like, "Why?" He goes, "Military base."
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because over there is just
All
$7
day.
a haircuts
Yeah,
and
yeah,
cranking them out.
yeah,
So I was like, "All right, cool." You know, I'll go on weekends because the
yeah.
shop during that time was closed like Sunday, Mondays, and
Okay.
those are the busy days down in
Yeah, yeah,
by
yeah,
the
yeah.
military base. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go down there. So I hit up this dude named Ron.
Hmm.
He has a barber. To this day, that barbershop's still there.
Okay.
And I was like, hey, Ron, I'm a barber. You know,
Yeah,
I'll, if you could teach me how to
yeah,
do skin fades, I would appreciate it. And I'll work Sunday, Mondays until
yeah,
you find
yeah.
a full time barber.
Right,
He's
right.
like, yeah, for sure, dude. I get there, and sure enough, I took on my clippers, phone set
Yeah,
up, and I was taking like 20 minutes
yeah,
per fade, right?
yeah,
And he was just like the whole time, he's just talking shit next to me.
yeah.
You're slow. Where's your license? I should
Yeah.
burn it in
Oh,
front of you. I
hell.
should cut off the cable from your clippers. Like,
Oh,
dude,
hell.
he was just grinding on me. And it was
Yeah,
my
yeah,
first day, my first Sunday. I
yeah.
left. That day I went home and I told my mom, I'm like, F that man, dude. Like, I don't want to go back.
I'm just
Like that,
crying in the car home. Motherfucker.
like he grilled me in so
Yeah,
bad. And I was
yeah,
like, oh my God, dude.
yeah,
I'm like, I'm not going back.
yeah,
So Monday I go back and I'm like, all right, I can't give up. I can't let
yeah,
him
yeah,
win.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like, all
yeah,
right.
yeah.
I get in there and he goes, you know how to do a flat top? I'm like, yeah, I know how to do a flat top, but I didn't.
Yeah, yeah,
He
yeah.
just said I did. I was like, all right, cool.
Of course, you don't gonna say no.
So I was like, all right, cool. And I grabbed the clipper, and like
Yeah,
I started going at it. And he goes, what the hell are you doing? And I'm like, what? He goes, that's how you start? He's like, man, get out the way. I'm gonna show you how it's done. And I'm like, all right, cool. All freehand, just you know, like nothing. And I'm
yeah,
like, what? He goes, you know what? At the end of the day, just grab all your shit and don't come back. And I was like, yo, Ron, are you
yeah,
being serious, dude? Or you just
yeah,
like messing with my head, dude? Because I couldn't sleep last night.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Like, nah, I'm being serious.
yeah,
Don't come back. Today's
yeah,
your last day.
yeah,
And I was like, all right,
yeah,
cool. I was
yeah,
all bummed, dude.
yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
was
for sure.
I was like, all right, cool. Wednesday comes around, he shoots me a text. He goes, hey, you got time to talk? And I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah. So we started chatting. He goes,
yeah,
hey,
yeah,
I'm just messing with you. And I'm like, what do you mean? He
yeah,
goes, you gotta toughen up, kid. Like,
yeah,
can't
yeah,
he's like, these
yeah,
Marines will eat you alive out here. Like,
yeah,
you
yeah,
gotta
yeah,
toughen up, build that
yeah,
skin. You gotta be a
yeah,
crocodile, that thicker
yeah.
skin. And I was like, oh, I'm like, this is me that on fire. He's like, nah, you're good. He's like, I just gotta toughen you up, buddy. And I was like, all right, cool. I was like,
Yeah, there you
dude, I
go.
was about to
Yeah,
go off on you. He's like, nah, you good,
yeah,
man.
man.
But yeah,
But that's the type of barbering that barbers today coming out of school and this newer generation of barbers don't get exposure to. And
exactly.
that to me is, and to many of us, um, is the downfall of one. It's I want to say it's the downfall because that's not going to ruin barbering. It's not going to take down barbering, but it
Right.
definitely hinders the growth and progress of barbering because barbers today don't understand that kind of mentality and that kind of work ethic that is involved with having a long and successful career,
Yep.
right? So they tap out, they check out easy. Like you see how many people go to barber school, come out of barber school, cosmetology school as well. And then like 2 years later, they're working at a regular job again, because it was too hard to build a clientele or I didn't like the owner at this place. And then, if they don't quit altogether, they bounce around from shop to shop,
Yep.
always talking about, I can't wait to one day own my own shop. I'm like, how you going to own your own shop if you can't even,
If you keep
put down
bouncing
roots
around.
at one? Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and
yeah,
that's the crazy thing, dude. One barber that I grilled on, dude, while I was at American was
yeah,
Alex, little Alex. I
yeah.
know he's gonna
Remember
listen to
Alex?
this,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
I remember
I
Alex.
grilled him, dude. He
Yeah.
he started as the shop hand,
Yeah.
sweeping the floor, and I would give him shit for it. I
Yeah.
would be like,
Yeah.
hey, dude, you didn't
Yeah.
sweep right. What do you mean?
Yeah.
Look right
Yeah.
here, boom.
Yeah.
You gotta do this, you gotta do that, and the dude, he's a great barber now,
Yeah.
successful, owns a barbershop salon with his wife. I'm
Awesome.
like, dude,
Yeah.
proud of you. And
Yeah.
and he tells me all the time, he's all like, dude, I get young barbers coming in here and I'll
Yeah.
talk shit to them, and right
Yeah.
away they're like, "I don't want to work here no more."
Yeah.
You know, and I'm
Mm.
like,
It's a
"Really?"
sad truth, man. It's a sad
And he
truth.
tells you all like, "Oh, dude, you think I'm going hard?" He's all like, "You
Yeah.
have no idea what my mentor back
I
there.
know.
That dude is the devil.
Yeah.
He would make you quit."
Yeah.
And he's like,
I
"Dude,
think
yeah,
our levels of like from when it got handed down to us, it's not as extreme when we give it to somebody else, right?
yeah,
Uh, but they still get a taste of it. But they'll never like if it's like watered down, like from Barbara Dan, my mentor, to where I'm at,
right,
to my apprentice, to my guys now to the next. I mean, it's been watered down, so they don't get as like in your face.
oh yeah,
It's more like, hey man, let's go have a talk. Like when I left Barbara Dan, I was like, all those times you talk shit to me, like those were the times that as a young barber, new barber coming out of barber school, that I was looking at you as a mentor to
yeah,
teach me, because I'm the one that you're going to hand the baton in the relay to carry this on. And if all I get is like negative and I can tell you have, I mean, at the time in his life he was going through some personal stuff too, so he brings it in the shop, so it's always negative, right? I
yeah.
said that's going to discourage me from wanting to be here, at least, and he himself didn't even realize it. Oh, I didn't realize it was that bad. Like, well, it
Yeah,
is, man.
yeah, it's crazy,
you know, you know. But
that
that's what gave me the strength to open up my own eventually and to persevere through like being slow and building and growing, because I got to see it and experience firsthand what he's done. And he's been at it for 50 years, right?
right.
So yeah, I wish more barbers had an opportunity to like go through an apprenticeship at a place like somewhere before they actually get out in the field.
Yeah, and that's the crazy thing because now I think Stateboard has the apprenticeship,
They
because when
do.
I went
They
to
do.
barber
Yeah.
school, when I was trying to be a barber, I looked into it and there was
Yeah.
nothing. We're talking about like
Uh,
2010,
yeah.
2009,
Yeah. Yeah.
2010. And then, it wasn't until probably 2015, 2016, so around there, that's when they allowed it. And
Mhm.
I'm like, man,
It's like 2 years. I think it's a 2-year program. Yeah.
yeah, it's a 2-year program where
Yeah.
you work under someone that is licensed,
Yeah.
but at the shop,
Yeah.
and then you
Yeah.
become a barber. You obviously you take the testing and everything else,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
even the
Yeah.
testing at State Board is like completely watered down as
Oh, I
to what
know. They don't even
you
shave
do.
on real people anymore. It's a
They don't.
mannequin.
It's a mannequin. I was
I
like, what
know.
the? I was
I
like, dude,
know.
I had
You
to
think
get
I
my
can't cut nobody? Dude.
man. My buddy the guy that went with me to State Board, he worked at a tire shop next to the school.
Okay.
I begged him
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
to cut his hair, not
Yeah.
to
Yeah. Yeah.
shave, this and that.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, I will buy you lunch for a
Yeah.
week. I will do this, I will do that. The day of State Board, I
Yeah.
swear, I couldn't sleep. I drove to his house like at 3 in the morning, and I
Yeah.
was like, bro, get your ass up. We're
Yeah.
driving to LA. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
we're doing this. And I was like, I'm sorry, I gotta put you through the ringer. He
Yeah.
was like, don't trip, bro. I got you. And
Yeah.
his name's Alex. And if it wasn't for him, shit, I don't know how I would have done.
Yeah, I mean, I like my model. And the gentleman's name passes, it slips from me, but a good friend of mine from barber school was his buddy, and he volunteered to do it. And like when they were going into the test room, and like my man hadn't showed up yet, I'm like, oh shoot, man, like, oh, it's my mom. I ran back outside, and he just like came in hot. And I was like, let's go.
Yeah,
And
it's
so
crazy.
like, yeah, the shave. I remember doing the shave portion, and in that testing room, it's funny because you see faces of like other dudes you'll never see again, more than likely,
Yeah.
wherever they barbering at. And your hope is like, just don't be the worst one in the room, man. So I remember going through my shave and I had it all set up, but I didn't lock the chair. And I
Oh,
hadn't started yet. And then the OG came and he just kind of kicked the foot pedal and it moved. You're like, oh yeah, I was just about to do that. Locked
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
As soon as I start my shave, somebody else is dropping combs at the other corner. So the guy
Oh,
goes, I'm like, oh yeah, just keep messing up over
keep
there.
over there.
He's like
So
a shark, bro.
yeah, dude. So when I took the test, here's a story. So we're doing the perm, the rods,
Oh,
the last part
yeah,
of the testing,
yeah,
right? And I'm like completely zoned out.
yeah,
I'm just doing the thing.
yeah,
The guy next to me, he has his phone.
yeah,
So his phone goes off, right? And it's ringing.
yeah,
So I'm like, it ain't me. I
yeah,
don't my
yeah,
phone is in the car. I'm like, I
yeah,
I learned to leave my shit in
yeah,
the car. I was
yeah,
like, the only thing that is on me is my keys. That's it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm doing the perms, and this dude's phone is just going off. So the proctor goes, really? Really? You gotta be kidding me, right? but he's staring at me the whole time, and I'm looking at him through the mirror, and I'm like, it ain't me. You could search me. It's not me. It's my man next to me, you know. So the homie next to me, he's playing it off, blaming it on the other guy, right? So I was like, why is this dude? So I'm over here focusing on this, and then all of a sudden the proctor comes. He gets real close to me, and by then the phone stopped ringing.
Yeah.
So he looks at me, and I make eye contact with him, and I'm like, "Sir, I don't
Yeah.
have a phone. Like, I'll empty my pockets, and you
Yeah.
can see it. Like, I don't have a phone." He goes, "Okay." Right before I was about to reach in my pockets, the
Yeah.
phone rings again,
Yeah.
and it's the guy next to me. So he turns the other way. He goes, "You sneaky little punk." He tells him, right? And I'm like, "Uh-oh." He
Yeah.
goes, "Give it to me." So the
Yeah.
dude takes his phone out, and it was his girlfriend.
Yeah.
He goes, "Sorry, sir, it's my girlfriend, this and that." The proctor answers the phone,
Oh shit.
and he goes, "Just so you know, young lady, this young man
Yeah.
is in the middle of almost
Yeah.
passing his test.
Oh,
But because you decided to call
yeah.
him and
Yeah.
ruin it for him,
Yeah.
he has to come back in 3 to 6 months."
Oh,
Dude hangs
damn.
up the phone
Yeah.
and tells the guy, "Pack it up.
Back it
We're
up.
done."
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, that's cold." And then everybody was like, "Oh shit, dude.
Or just be
Oh,
like,
oh yeah, dude."
yeah, let's
Everybody, we all became ninjas all of a sudden
no,
holding those.
no.
I was like, "Oh my god, dude." So
Dude,
that
I
is
mean, that's what it comes down to. Like, you just have to look confident, right? You just have to be confident in there, and it'll, the moment you start showing you're nervous, and he comes around or she comes around, and you start like they're just gonna be on you, and then after that,
yeah,
it's a
it's game over. And yeah,
game
dude. I
over, bro.
mean, I really hope that dude ended up getting his license, because the dude looked like, man, he was mad, but I was like,
Yeah,
dude, should have left your phone in your car.
yeah.
You would have had no problem.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I had to
seriously.
cut his guy. Like he was doing the shave. He cut his guy like 5 times during the shave, but he stopped every time, did all this, all the stip dick and the cleaning. I mean, he passed, so it's like you can cut. Well, I mean, they can't cut nobody now, right? Like how you gonna cut
No.
mannequins? I don't know, man. Yeah.
It's crazy. They gone soft on the new
Yeah.
barbers, even in state
Yes,
board.
I
I'm
know.
like, man, this is
But I mean,
boring.
that's the problem. I think now is that it's kind of handed to folks now, right? It's not earned as. I mean, yeah, you have to put in your hours. Sure, you have to go to barber school. You have to pass the written test and stuff. But like, if it's watered down so much where you're taking a test where you don't even have to worry about cutting the dude's face or cutting anybody's face, man, or even having to find a model. Like a big part of what we do now is going and finding clients, building clients. And if you don't even
Right.
have to go find someone to come and sit in your chair to be your test person to cut their hair and shave on, we're already taking a big part away from what barbering culture is supposed to be about. What
Absolutely.
is basically saying like, well, you don't need to go, just bring a doll head,
Yep.
So if you dissect it down to those little things, each one of these little things, the more they take away, the more easier they make it for people to pass the exam. Those kind of things will affect barbering in some capacity, man.
Yeah,
I
absolutely. I
believe
totally
so.
agree. I totally agree,
Yeah.
with that. Um, so you open up your second shop, or
I did. I had the original one in Berkeley that's been around since I opened that 2012. So we turned 9 years this year.
that's awesome.
And
Congratulations
yeah,
on that.
thank you. And I had opened up a second shop like 2.5 years ago, but I closed it during the
During COVID.
um, which was an easy decision to make once we realized that like this will be closed indefinitely, right?
Yep.
And so the way I handled the pandemic was I'm not one to just kind of wait around for people to make decisions for me. Like I had to act like, okay, now I have to trim the fat off the budget. So where do I cut? Where do I trim the fat off? Like, okay, so close this location, put everything in storage, cut that rent out
Yep.
right off the bat, right? So I
Yeah.
started doing that in all areas of my life. And so the shop, I closed that with I just everything's still in storage. The shop was really me and the soul that I put into the shop. The decor is the
Yep.
decor and can be put any location and reopen. It'll be the same vibe, the same sort of aesthetic and experience. So yeah, I try not to have too much of an emotional attachment to what I'm building, right?
Right.
Even if I was to lose Berkeley, I would just be thankful that I got to experience owning Berkeley for as long as I had, right? And then it would just open up another one, you know. So I think that kind of resilience is what we need more going forward, and especially after such a hard year last year, man. You
Oh
know,
yeah,
and
man.
the year and the financial toll it took on everybody, the emotional, spiritual, everything, man. It was just on so many different layers. But you know, we have to be resilient to keep pushing forward, and you know, that's always been my I've always tried to use my little platform on social media to push that, right? So be positive, keep pushing forward, don't give up, you know, put
Yeah,
your best foot forward, you know.
and I
So
think that's what helped a lot of people. Dude, the fact that you would just sprinkle that on a
yeah,
daily on
yeah,
everyone, and it was
yeah,
like man,
yeah,
it's definitely 2020 was a tough year for the hair industry. Well,
yeah,
everyone in
yeah,
general,
yeah,
nationwide,
yeah,
worldwide,
yeah.
and everybody that follows you on your platform, and got to see a little bit of like what you were putting, the food you were putting for towards
Thank
everybody. It
you,
kind
man.
of gave
Yeah,
a little
yeah,
bit more inspiration because there were times when I was like, man, this shit
yeah,
sucks. I fucking
yeah, yeah,
hate,
yeah,
and
yeah,
for some reason, like and I told you a few times, and I would DM you,
yeah,
like, dude, I will be going in that direction, and deep
yeah,
in my head, and I
yeah,
open up social media, and boom, there was your post, and I will
yeah,
read it, and
yeah.
I'm like,
Thank you.
all right,
Thank you.
I was
Yeah.
like, all right, I was just getting
And
ahead
you
of
know, most of
myself.
it really is, yeah, my whole post, my well, at least my platform from when I started it, and even with the barbershop, I just try to show people, like, I'm no different from you or the next guy. I'm a man who
Right.
makes his mistakes and has his flaws, and but I'm definitely someone that by choice, after all the bad experiences I've had in my life, is one that now chooses to look at the positive all the time as much as I can, right? So with the platform, it's like, well, if shit, MJ's all happy and shit, and he's just a regular dude. He's like me, you know, nothing on there is
Right.
like he's not doing anything. He's not traveling the world or having bottle services. So he's like a regular dude, man. And you look at his life, and my life's just me, my kids, and my business, you know.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
um, if people can sort of look at that and say, like, if that person can do it, I can do it, you know.
Yeah,
Then the
100.
Instagram versus reality is almost parallel. It's almost the same. Versus, you know, during some of this pandemic stuff, I saw a lot of social media barber personalities that projected pre-pandemic a certain way of life, and then pandemic hit, and they kind of like expose themselves to, like, I don't really have this kind of security and financial life that I had. I've got to cut out of my garage now or whatever to make
Yeah,
ends meet, you know. So it's
yeah,
hard then, like we were talking about with barbering being a little bit easier. Yeah, with the state board making it easier, not so many mentors anymore, and then social media makes it even more look like it's easier to do, right?
yep,
It's important now for people to see, like, to be able to determine, like, what's the reality with all smoke and mirrors, and when all that clears, we're all pretty much on a level playing field, man, you know.
yeah,
So
absolutely, man.
yeah,
And yeah, during the whole pandemic, there were a few times, a few days out of the week that I'll have like certain friends hit me up and
yeah,
like, hey, dude, can you come over?
yeah,
I'm like, you know what? I
yeah,
haven't
yeah,
left my house in 3 days. Yeah, why not? Let me
yeah.
get out of here,
Yeah,
and go
yeah,
cut your hair, shoot the shit, come
yeah,
back home, and
yeah,
get back into the zone. But
yeah,
the main focus was just being here at home.
yeah,
My daughter was still going to school,
yeah,
so it was like all that Zoom stuff, and it
yeah,
was like
yeah,
frustrating because I even talk about it on
yeah,
my first podcast. I was like, man, we we graduated second grade, both of us, not just
yeah,
her, because we
yeah,
were
yeah,
both struggling trying to
yeah.
figure things out.
Yeah.
Zoom,
I'm glad I didn't have to do any teaching. My
so I was like,
my daughter was
shit, man.
smart enough to do that all herself, man. I couldn't help in anything. There's nothing I could do.
Yeah, there were
We both
times.
have failed second grade if it was
Oh
second
man,
grade.
there were times I'm like, wait, hold on, let me ask Siri, what's the you know
Oh shoot, man.
this number.
Yeah.
I was like, if it wasn't for technology, I don't know
Bro,
what
even
I'd
when
be
my
doing.
daughter was that age, you know, she'd come to do homework and it was like math. And I'm like, oh, daddy can help you with spelling and any like other stuff. And when you go
Yeah,
to your mom's house, so she's real good at math. She do all the math stuff.
yeah. So we just kind of kept it low key, and
Yeah, man.
yeah, we opened up our shop and just kept it,
Yeah,
close friends and
yeah,
family,
yeah,
people that
yeah,
wanted to be secure, and I'm like,
yeah,
all right, we're working 2 days here,
Yeah,
2 days
yeah,
off, just
yeah,
rotating. But it was crazy because you definitely got to see a lot of barbers that were like high up there,
yeah,
just bring it back down.
yeah, yeah,
And some of them reached out to me. They were like, "Dude,
yeah,
how do you have money, this and that?" And I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah,
"Well, I'm like,
yeah,
I'm not a big
yeah,
money person, dude,
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah,
I don't I don't care for the shit that you care, you
yeah,
know."
yeah, 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 yeah,
And
yeah.
that was it.
And I try to always promote like barbering. If you come into barbering and you want to be a millionaire, it may not be the route to go. I mean,
Get in
possibly it's
line.
possible that you can, you know what I mean? Like if you're entrepreneurial enough, you can find the ways to make it happen. But
Yep.
as long as I've known barbering, and if you look through the history books, barbering is a service trade. It's a trade for the people. And you have to be content in what you can make. You have to be conscious of how much you save, and you have to live a very simple, almost a simple life. You can still have nice things, but it does require you to be a little bit more savvy in what you're spending and how you're saving. And uh social media can definitely promote that, like, oh man, this dude's balling out, he's got a nice car, he's traveling, he's teaching around the world and doing all this kind of
And that and
stuff.
that's and that's the cons of
Yeah,
social media in the
yeah,
barber industry,
yeah.
because all these young barbers, they get attached to it, like, oh
And
well,
they're impressionable, right? That's kind
yep,
of the generation that, like, they see it and they can believe it and they'll want it. Versus us older guys are like, man, you out of here with all this. Yeah.
yeah, we're like, I don't need a
Hey, come
fancy
on
car.
now. Yeah, yeah. But they equate fame and popularity with success, which is never the case, right?
Yep.
So especially when you can, like Bob Vila, when Bob Vila be painting and stuff, right? You can
Yeah.
paint whatever beautiful thing you want. And that's what social media is like. I'm just going to show you all the beautiful things and the highlights, and I can even fake some of my highlights. And you just kind of get caught up in, like, I want those guys' highlights or that girl's highlights.
Yep.
Um, but again, it's not to say that it can't happen. Like I remember, like, from American, man, like, like a lot of people have gone through American, like Sophie Steggold, right? And
Yeah. Yeah.
a lot of the people that have gone on to open up their own shops and brands and collabs, and I mean, they're doing amazing work. And like those ones, I've seen their journey. I've seen them from when they were started at American, right? And
Yeah.
so their
Absolutely.
success and popularity is definitely something that's earned. They didn't just come out of the gates on social media like, oh, who's this person out of nowhere, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sophie, she's super talented, and
yeah,
she went through the ringer, man. There
yeah,
were, I mean, I got stories for days
yeah.
when clients were assholes to her. They'd be
Yeah, I'm sure, man.
like,
Female barbers got sometimes a tougher. They have to break through that stereotype that they can't cut or they can't. And yet, to
yeah,
me, they make the better barbers because they have that
yeah.
adversity to go through. So
Yeah, there's times when I'll get a client and they'll show me a photo of that she made on a haircut, and I'm like, I
yeah,
can't do that shit. Only
I
she
know that's
can,
the
I was like,
word.
I wouldn't even come close to that shit no more.
I know. Don't show me that shit.
I was like, don't show me that shit. I don't know how to
I know
do
I'm the same way, man.
all the wavy fade shit.
Oh,
I'm
dude,
like, I don't know
I
how to
know,
do that.
bro. I
And
know.
and they
Every
just
time I
like,
get that and they show it and I see the name, the handle, like, there's no fucking way. There's
yeah, I'm
Okay,
like,
yeah, I can do that. And then I'll be doing the whole thing like, nothing like the. I see that picture one more time. Oh yeah, okay, okay,
hey, send me
okay.
that picture. I want to be staring at it too. Like,
Just open up your phone and just leave it on my station. Just you know.
right? Yeah,
And then when I show the mirror, I'll just be like, this is what I say. Well, this is my rendition of that haircut.
yeah, yeah. And they're like, well, it's not the same. I'm like, well,
Oh, it's all
what do you
right. Yeah,
expect, man? I'm like,
good try,
yeah.
MJ. Good try.
And I'm like, yeah, I tried. Yeah, dude. I mean, I look at her work now, and
Oh, phenomenal,
I'm like,
man.
damn, Sophie, like,
Oh yeah,
shit, you took it to a whole different
yeah,
level. You
yeah,
went a
yeah,
different lane, and
yeah.
there's no stopping you. And,
Yeah.
good for her,
And
and
so,
I'm
and
proud
so
of
for
her.
those that are that, they can make a lot of more money than most. They can open up doors for themselves through their work and their personalities and their branding. But for
Yep.
the everyday person, I mean, I looked at Barbara Dan, 51 years old, raised his family. I talked to him. He said, "Yeah, I've owned houses. Over in the good years, I've had multiple shops. I owned a house. I had a pool. I raised my kids and my families, and that to me was what barbering was for. I didn't buy no mansions or anything like that. But there was one time in my life I had a Porsche in the garage. I'm like, oh shit. So,
Damn.
like if you can manage it, barbering can provide for it, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So.
yeah,
But
and
barbering also gives us a lot of freedom. So if you're like lazy and you have bad work ethic, you don't show up on time, you don't know how to treat your customers, that'll be the demise of the downfall of your finance, how much money you can make also. So,
yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
yeah.
It all starts with customer service. Greeting the
A
client.
100,000 million%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I
and
mean, my haircuts, I've had the shop now for 9 years. I've been in the industry now for 13. And even with my clients, my long clients that have been with me since the beginning, like I'll show them the mirror. And most of my clients, they don't even look at the mirror,
they don't
when
even
you
want it no more.
respect, yeah. And sometimes I'm like, "Mom, but look, like I got better. Like I actually got better at doing your hair." They're like, "Oh, I can't tell the difference. But
Yeah,
me, I'm proud that I think I'm getting better at it,
yeah. So do
But
I. I'll be like,
people don't care,
I give them the mirror, and they're like, come on, man, I don't need the mirror. And I'm like, no, I want you to look at it, dude.
Uh,
Like, looks better today.
But my ego says, "Damn right, you better say you don't need to look at the mirror."
Yeah, exactly,
But
man.
sometimes they're like, "Please don't look at the mirror. It's not."
Yeah. So yeah, I got the same clients here that
Yeah,
they've been with me since day one, and
yeah,
like one of them, my buddy Junior, really good friend of mine. That dude has seen me since my early
yeah,
beginnings,
yeah,
and
yeah,
he got married last November, and he reached out. He's like, "Hey, dude,
yeah,
I need you to make me look good for my
yeah,
wedding." I'm
yeah.
like, "When is
Awesome.
it?" He's like, "Saturday." I'm like, "Say
Yeah,
no more. I'll be there." I
yeah,
block my schedule. I'm like,
yeah,
"This
yeah,
dude has been there for me in
yeah,
numerous
man.
times.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah,
be there."
yeah.
And I did it, and I was like,
Well,
we
that's what we do, right? It's building relationships. That's something that's not. The schools, their job really is just to prepare you for state board, right?
yeah,
But they don't teach you about the business of barbering. They don't teach you about the intangible stuff in barbering, right? There's
yep,
like, when I was there, was the chapter on being like the business stuff was at the end, and it was like 2 days, and nobody, it's like, just read the book, and there was nobody there in the school saying like, this is how you need to manage your appointments, this is how you need to dress appropriately, this isn't how you need to be on time. Like, none of that kind of stuff is drilled. It's so, but the biggest thing that they miss is barbering is all about service and relationship building. I've said this in many a different interview and stuff, but when I started at a Paul Mitchell school because they said it was one and the same. I didn't do my due diligence in the differences of the licenses. So I ended up at Paul Mitchell school. They said it's all the same. And so I just signed up, right? And then halfway through I realized I was not, but I was already in there. But anyway, that first week, I was like, what the hell am I doing here, man? I don't know how to blow dry, and I don't know how to do all the stuff. And I was feeling very, very deflated. And then one of the theory teachers that week was like, this statistically, she said, our success in this industry is 70-75% your personality, on who you are as a person, right?
yep,
And that's what will draw people to you. And so, like, I ran with that statistic. I've been running with that since that day I heard it, right? I can always get better at cutting hair, I can get better at social media and all this other stuff over the years, but like, I'll dial in and perfect the service part. I'll dial in and perfect how I project myself as a person.
right,
And law of attraction will say, like, somebody out there, I mean, I don't want all the clients, but there'll be clients that can appreciate what I bring to the table, my positivity, my aloha, spread love, that kind
right,
of vibe.
absolutely,
And so, like, there's that for every barber out there, and there's a clientele for every barber out there. As long as you can project your 70-75% personality with professionalism, right? Empathy, sympathy, love, and all kind of incorporated that, because that's what people are looking for, right?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
And one thing that I learned through one of my good friends, Danny, he goes by Success Addict and
yeah,
this educator.
yeah,
He said in one of his YouTube videos a long time ago, and since then I've preached it
yeah,
whenever I get a chance to go to a
yeah,
barber school
yeah.
or anything like that, and I say it straightforward. I'll be like, you don't have to be the best barber.
No,
You could have the worst
yeah,
freaking haircuts in the world, but if your customer service is like top notch, a
yeah,
client will settle for that
yeah,
than to go with an ego
yeah,
barber.
yeah,
I'm like, because you show the respect to a client, so
yeah,
a client much appreciates that than
yeah,
to have a barber that's gonna be like just bragging about himself and his
yeah,
haircuts.
yeah.
And so for me, that's always been stuck in my head. I'm like, dude, that's absolutely
But
right.
we have to
Because
remember, right? And I don't know if like, you've known me for a little while, and those that
Yeah.
kind of know me and how I think about barbering sort of a little bit differently, right? I'm always trying to dissect it from like a service standpoint, right?
Yep.
And so, like, if you think about like customers that come to us for the first time, right? When they sit in our chair for the first time, like this obviously isn't their first haircut ever, right? They were
Yeah.
getting haircuts somewhere before, and we don't think about that. They were getting haircuts somewhere before, probably even better than the one I'm about to give him, right? But he left that person for a reason.
Yeah.
And so typically those reasons aren't within the haircut so much, like, unless he really scalped the dude, but it's like usually that barber is never on time. Usually something in the shop turned them away or turned them off.
Yep.
Um, and they got to a point where they just didn't want to pay this person anymore for that kind of service that they were getting. And so they'll leave that place and search for another place, even if they have to pay them more
Yeah.
to get a better experience. And it's the experience as a whole and it's the service as a whole that new brand new person is looking for. And a lot of young barbers today, not thinking this way, will not invest 110% in this customer that very first time, right?
Absolutely.
To try to capture them as a permanent customer,
Yeah.
right? So I'm always thinking like that, like, have you been here before? Oh, this is my first time. Oh yeah,
It's
buddy.
on.
It's
Yeah.
on now.
Yeah. I'm always asking them like, oh yeah, what shop did you go? And they'll be like,
Yeah,
oh, shop. I don't know.
yeah,
And I'm like, where do you live? And
yeah,
then just pick through them.
yeah,
Like sports, and they're like, nah. I'm like,
yeah,
how about movies?
yeah,
Yeah, I'm a movie junkie. I'm like,
yeah,
dude, I'm your
yeah,
guy because
yeah,
let's talk
yeah, yeah,
movies, and
yeah,
we'll get
yeah,
into it. And next thing you know, I refer TV shows or whatnot,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that
yeah.
friendship just
Yeah,
builds
it
up from
builds,
there.
man. It
You
builds.
know?
It builds, and that's what people are looking for, especially men. In this day and age, where men can't open up. We're not hereditarily, we're not really ingrained to share our emotions as men,
Yeah.
right? That old school toxic masculinity thing, right? Like no
Yep.
pain, no gain. You ain't gonna see me cry. I ain't weak. I ain't no sucker. So
Yep.
like I can't talk to my wife. I can't talk to my mom and dad. I can't talk to my boys because they gonna make fun of me. I
Hmm.
can't talk to anybody but like this dude that I get my haircut with, that we just vibed on some level about movies and stuff. And all of a sudden, like I feel like, hey man, I can talk to this dude. First we
Yep.
started talking about movies, then we started talking about vacations, and then we talk about our kids. The next thing you know, I'm talking to him about my divorce, man. I'm talking to him about I hate my job. And once you get to that point and you've made that relationship, like you've turned, like you've struck a match, and
Yep.
now it's burning. All you got to do is just keep fanning that flame, man, and
Yeah.
and you've got a client forever that will
Yeah.
support you in your growth.
Absolutely. I had a kid, uh, high school kid, senior in high
Yeah,
school. This is like before the pandemic, and I was like, "Oh, where do you go to school?" He was just being dry,
yeah,
and I was like, and then I was like, I'm like, "Do you like to talk, or you just?"
yeah.
He's like, "You're not gonna get nothing out of me," and I'm like,
Oh,
"Oh,
oh,
really?
yeah,
Okay."
yeah,
So I started taking my sweet ass time on his
yeah,
hair, and
yeah,
I'm like, "Oh." I'm like, hey, those are nice shoes, man. Like, Vans, are those new? Start
yeah,
picking little by little, start
yeah,
picking in his head.
yeah, yeah,
And I was like, I'm like, did you drive here? Your mom dropped you off. He's all like,
yeah,
by the time I gave him the mirror, I knew
yeah,
about the issues that he had with his girlfriend, like
yeah,
everything. So he's giving me the money, right? And
yeah,
like
yeah.
he stops and he goes, you, you. And I'm like, what's up, my man? He goes, how did you do that? And I'm like, how did I do what? He's like, how did you get me to talk about my girlfriend and my issues that we're going through right now?
Yeah,
And I'm like, I didn't make you do
yeah,
anything. You
yeah,
did it.
yeah, yeah,
He goes, holy shit, man.
yeah,
He's like, oh
yeah,
my God.
yeah.
He's like, please don't tell anyone. And I'm like, you do realize that
Yeah,
barbers, we take everyone's secrets to the
yeah,
grave.
yeah,
And he's like,
yeah,
really? I'm like, yeah, there's a
yeah,
quote out there.
yeah,
I'm like
yeah,
that, the best health secret, person is a barber.
yeah.
And he was like, "That's awesome." And since then, I've been seeing the kid now.
That's good, man.
So
Yeah.
he comes in and he's like, "Dude, so I did what you told me the last time," and I'm
Yeah,
like,
you
"All
got
right, good for you, my man." I was like,
yeah,
"That's what's up."
yeah.
But it's just so fun
Well,
to
that's
when,
it's a skill, right? And that's, I think that's something that we can learn as barbers and improve on even more than we can to like make the fade blurrier, and like all
Yeah.
the stuff that today's generation focuses more on is something that other barbers would care about. Like my fade is as compared to his fade, but the customers don't look at that. They're not trained
Yeah.
to see that. Their eyes are not trained to see the difference in the nuances and how I cut hair versus that person's cutting hair, right?
Yeah.
But they will be able to tell, like through your communication, if you how you touch, right? How like even like I believe that the touch is like the transfer of energy that happens between two people. Like if you come into the chair and you can tell this dude's having a bad day, even if he's a regular client, like as soon as you put your hands on the shoulder before you start, like, hey man, so you just rub the shoulders like this, like a massage, like, all right, what are we doing today?
Yep.
Like even those little things, those subtle things can change that person's mindset on the experience they're about to have, just like that.
Yeah,
Right.
and it also we're able to tell when a client is going through
Yeah.
some dark
Yeah.
moments, you
Oh
know. I mean,
yeah. Oh yeah.
I've had my shares where I have a client, you know, and the moment they walk in, I could just see it in
Yeah.
their eyes that
Yeah.
something's going on,
Yeah.
and they sit down, and I'm like, "All right, dude, talk to me.
Yeah.
What's going on?" They're like,
Yeah.
"Well, what do you mean?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"You don't you don't seem right.
Yeah.
You don't look the same. There's something I could feel
Yeah.
something's going on.
Yeah.
Let me have it.
Yeah.
Fill me in." And then
Yeah.
they open up, and you know, and
Yeah.
it's like some serious issues, and
Yeah.
you know, I'm like, "Hey, bro, we're gonna get through this," you know. And there's times when I go home thinking of,
Yeah.
I don't know if this happens to you, thinking of that specific client that, you know,
Yeah.
he had like a rough week, and you know, small signs of like some craziness is
Yeah.
kicking in, and I'm like, I'll shoot him a text the
Yeah.
following day, making sure, and I'm like, "Dude, are you good?" Like,
Yeah.
you know, and
Yeah.
you know, and I come home and I'm like, "Man, like, dude, hope he's good, hope he's
Yeah.
well," you know. And
Well, my mom put it in a good perspective when she was visiting from American Samoa. Right when I was before I opened the shop, we were both in the Berkeley parlor, just kind of I was decorating, blinds were down,
right.
and she I was raised Catholic, man, so very strong Catholic parents, man. And so my mom, who every time she would visit bring like 10 rosaries and an extra Bible and just so my mom was like, son, this is not your shop, this is God's shop, and this is your place to minister to men that are going to need healing, that are going to need someone to listen, that are going to need a place to feel where they belong, right? And I was like, oh shit, that was kind of deep. I
Yeah.
said, well, I said, you're just his employee, right? I said, okay, I could dig that. I could dig that, but can I put my name on the window? Because I don't know how God's barbershop, I don't know how God's barbershop is going to come across to the people in Berkeley.
You're right.
And so like I've run with this whole, like what you and I have just shared about in relationship building and customer service. Like that's been the foundation of my growth over the years, from opening as a one chair to now having four chairs and 7 people on deck working there, and allowed me to have a second location when I did. Was all growth from relationship building, not from the quality of my haircuts, which
Yeah.
can get better, but like I would and some people say like it sounds crazy. I don't know what the crazy formula is. I don't know how it makes no sense, but if you're out there and you doubt, try it, and
Yeah.
see your clientele grow, and you know,
Yeah. And that's another thing that, you know, I made jokes, you know, because now we're getting close to tax season.
yeah,
So, you know, I posted it a few times, you know, during
yeah.
getting closer to April. I'll be like, I'll post, you'll see it pop up one of these days, and it'll say like, "Ladies, pay me though, and I tell you who your man is texting while he's in my chair," just to mess with them. So a lot of my clients, they'll be like, "Hey, bro, that's not right, man. Like, what are you doing?" I'll be like, "My, huh?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
you want to hold these secrets or what?" You know, just to mess with them. They're like, "Oh man, like,
yeah.
you know," and some of them they'll be like, my wife follows you on Instagram too," and I'm like, "I'll take Venmo now," you know.
Yeah,
Just give them a hard time, but it's so funny, dude.
yeah,
But
man.
yeah, dude, it's yeah, barbering is really it's something that it's a trade that I've loved doing, and
Yeah,
you know, I admire when barbers come in and you know just share
yeah,
experiences and just talk, you know.
yeah,
Uh, but yeah, dude, it's
My
something.
one regret during the pandemic is that I didn't use that year to learn how to play the guitar or something. You know what I mean? I should have been like smooth on the guitar by now. But I'm like,
Right?
I didn't pick up no hobbies. But barbering definitely allowed me, fortunately, over the years that I've been able to save money and spend wisely and spend less than what I make. It allowed me to journey through the pandemic comfortably. Um, and barbering can do that for all of us, so I'm just thankful on so many levels that barbering was able to do that when banking and finance and all the other stuff I used to do for 17 years didn't do it for me. you know
Yeah,
and I'm in a way better place now as a human being, emotionally, financially, all these things than I was in 2008 when I was faced with a similar pandemic, a similar financial situation and crash in the market
absolutely.
crash. And that's thanks to barbering. So
Yeah, I think one thing that I learned during the pandemic is spending some quality time with the family.
yeah,
Because we sometimes get carried away, and I'm guilty of that, where I'm
yeah,
spending 10, 12 hours in the shop,
yeah, yeah,
nonstop, and
yeah.
get home, I'm tired, I don't want to do shit,
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah,
just sit down, I don't want to know anything, I don't,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
um the pandemic kind of was like, oh man, a lot of hanging out with my
yeah,
daughter, my wife, just
yeah,
us,
yeah,
and close, really, really close, relatives around us, and
yeah,
close friends. um a lot of my gym friends became like super family, like super
yeah,
close family to me.
yeah,
The fact that we were constantly texting each other, created a whole group text that
yeah,
till this day it goes on, and
yeah,
every morning it's just like some funny memes
yeah, yeah.
going in and out, and it's like those moments where
What's the essentials,
definitely.
right? It's what boiled down to the essentials of what life really is about. It's about not walking this earth alone, right? And
Yeah,
so, the pandemic, if it taught us nothing else, it taught us to want to appreciate what's most important in our lives, and is also to appreciate the most important people in our lives.
yeah, absolutely.
Um, because we're not distracted now by having to do long commutes and work long hours, and it forces us to be present. It forced you and your daughter have to pass the second grade together.
Yeah, for real, we pass. We
Yeah.
pass. We're like, yes, when she got her little certificate, I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
we did it, we passed second grade. you know
Yeah.
the struggle
Um,
was real, but we made it.
struggle is real, but the struggle is worth it. And
It
so even with
is.
barbering, the struggle is real because in the beginning you don't make a lot of money. You have to work, man. It's like barbering gives you a lot of freedoms. Yeah, that's why most of us do it, but it's no different from a regular job. You got to show up on time, you got to be professional, you got to put in the work.
Yep.
And the more years you put behind you, fortunately, if you do it right, the less work you'll have to do in the later years.
Yeah.
So, but if anyone watching your podcast, man, I'm sure there's going to be a lot. And if it's from the barbering community, don't forget whatever stage you're in. Like, don't get complacent.
Yep.
There's always room for improvement. There's always room for improvement on service. I mean, I can't reiterate that enough. I'm fortunate that my business has been built on service, and today we still flourish because of the service.
Yeah.
Um,
And then it's even crazy, dude, because during the pandemic, I had like numerous clients um Venmo me.
yeah.
It was some crazy shit.
This is a support. Yeah, man, it's
I was
nuts.
like, there was one day I woke up and I get a Venmo email, and I'm like, who the hell is this?
Yeah,
And then I send them a message. I went deep into the
yeah, yeah,
reserve a booking and
yeah,
try to
yeah,
find that
yeah,
person,
yeah, yeah,
and shot them a text. I was like, yo, like,
yeah,
you didn't have to do that, man. And
yeah,
they're
yeah,
like,
yeah. Yeah.
nah, man, showing some support. And I was
It's
like,
crazy,
dude,
huh? Yeah, it's amazing.
appreciate you, man. I appreciate you. And when we're open,
Yeah,
freak, your cut is on me,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I held it on to
yeah, yeah,
give, several of them,
yeah, yeah,
their first cut back in the chair. It was like, nope, you're good. And they were like, nah, bro, here you go. And I'm
yeah,
like, nah.
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
you went out of your way, you searched
yeah,
for me. I don't know
yeah,
how, but
yeah,
they
yeah.
did their thing, and much appreciate to them. And you know,
It's a beautiful thing, man. Relationships are beautiful. The best relationships that we have in our life is a beautiful thing. It's your daughter, your wife, your baby on the way, your closest family and friends, as are mine, right? So
yep,
you can build relationships with people in this industry that they're the ones that sometimes, like, as an example, you might think of like, oh, I need some information about investing or something, you know, like the dudes are in your chair that will give you that information for free, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I need some help with like my accounting. Like some dudes in your chair as an accountant, he'll help you. Like there, it's all there, and you build those relationships. You'll be surprised at how much people will go out of their way because you actually went out of your way to give them a better experience than wherever they went before. And
Yep.
that's what I want people to remember. Like when they come to your chair for the first time, it's because they were somewhere else, multiple other places beforehand. You know, it's not like this dude's 40 and he's sitting in your chair like, oh, is your first haircut ever in your life? Like, no, dude, he's come from for some reason,
Yeah.
you, right?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
deliver the best that you can give him, the best experience that you can deliver, which will probably be 100 times better than wherever they left the other place, you know? So,
Yep.
yeah,
Absolutely, dude. That's 100% totally agree with you on that.
yeah, thank you, man.
So, I saw on your YouTube that
Yeah,
you ended up watching the movie Soul.
yeah,
After
man.
you posted
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
I was here at home and I was like, you know what? I'm
yeah,
gonna watch this movie. And dude, the message in
yeah,
that movie
yeah,
is super incredible.
yeah,
And shout outs
yeah,
to Walt for making that,
yeah,
little
man.
appearance on there. I was like,
Yeah,
dude, I was like, wait, what? I'm like, Walt, you
yeah,
guys kept this in the dark for a while.
yeah, yeah.
But that movie's by
Yeah, the
far one of
message of the entire message of the movie, even I mean, just the barbershop scene, especially as it's relatable to us and what we do, and when
yeah,
done right, right? Um, is it captivated exactly what the barbershop experience is about. You know, my daughter,
yeah,
she's the one that told me to watch it, and you know, she told me about it to watch it, and then we'll talk. We'll get to back together on the phone and talk about it. You know, she is, but this movie reminded me so much of you, and parts of it actually made me sad. So I was like, okay, I'll watch it. And so I watched it, and I know the barbershop scene was apparent, but I also know what she was talking about, the
right,
sad part. So when we talked, she goes, you know, like, well, the character reminded me of you. You know, he kind of dressed like you, and he always wears a hat. You know, and he said
yep,
he's very passionate about, he's very passionate about something. You know, like his was music, and yours was like barbering. You know, but then he's also lives by himself and like he's alone and I'm like, oh,
you're like,
and
oh,
that's what she was trying to say, like you ain't got no girlfriend or wife, and you when I'm not there, it's just you at the house by yourself, you know. And I said, yeah, but he was happy with his life, right? And I said, I'm happy with mine, you know. And at the end, where he got a second chance to come back, like that's your dad. Now, 2021, I come, the guy came out of his house and he was like this with his jacket. I'm like,
yep,
that's your old man in 2021. Like, oh, it's a new year, man. You know?
yeah, for real, dude. Yeah, I've really loved that movie, and
Yeah, man.
I've recommended it to everyone. I'm like, dude,
Yeah,
have you seen Soul? They're
yeah,
like, no. I'm like,
yeah,
watch
yeah,
it. Oh, it's
yeah,
a cartoon movie. I don't like it.
yeah,
I'm like, dude,
yeah,
trust me. Like
yeah,
the
yeah,
message behind it is
yeah,
just you.
yeah,
I'm like, I don't want to ruin it. Just
yeah.
watch it. And if you don't like it, dude, I will pay you what you pay freaking Disney Plus. Like, and they're like, all right. And then
Yeah.
later on the next day, we're like, dude, that movie
Oh,
was
dude, yeah,
super dope. Like, oh
yeah,
my God,
yeah,
dude. They're
yeah,
like that barbershop scene. That's
yeah,
exactly
yeah,
what,
yeah,
how we interact. And I'm like, told you.
yeah,
An incredible film.
yeah,
Love it.
yeah. Yeah, so it's a lot of good messages, you know, and that was during the pandemic. Got to watch that. Got a lot of great
Yeah.
messages. Walked away from this pandemic just more thankful about my life, more
Yeah,
thankful
absolutely.
for what I have. You know, when you reached out to whether I want to do this podcast with you last time, like, hey, yeah, man, next, I
Yeah.
always say yes, 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 yes.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that when you reply. I mean, I remember sending it to you, and then like my daughter, I take her to Taekwondo, and I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, like, click. I'm like, what the? Looked at my phone. I'm like, oh shit, did he reply that fast? I'm like, all right, cool. And he's like, yeah, let's do it. I was like, dude, this is awesome. I get to see Mark, and chat
Yeah,
with him.
man.
Because last time I was out in San Fran was
Yeah.
3 years ago, and it
Okay.
was to teach a class, and I was trying to get swing by your shop
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
everything, and
It didn't pan
it
out, man.
didn't planned out.
Yeah.
And then I remember I reached out to you when I had a client in the chair that goes to your shop.
Oh, yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
and I was like, oh yeah. He was
Yeah,
like, oh yeah, I go to this small,
yeah,
shop in
yeah,
Berkeley. And I'm like, what's the name of it? And
yeah,
he's like, dude, I don't know the name of the shop, but the owner,
yeah.
he's Hawaiian or Samoan. And I was like, I know what you're talking about. He goes, who is it? And I'm like, it's Mark,
Yeah.
MjSolofa. And he's like, that's it. That's the shop. And I was like, yeah, man. I'm like, dude. He's
Yeah,
like, dude,
yeah,
shop is clean, dope.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I was like, that's awesome, dude. So it's a small world. Our
It is a
industry is
small,
super
small
small
world, a
world.
small, small industry, and those of us that can connect like this through relationships, which was built off of social media,
Social
like
media, yeah.
it gets even tighter, and that's where you can say like, oh, you're going, where are you moving to? Oh, I got somebody there.
Yeah,
Oh, I got somebody here, I got somebody there, and it's man, it's amazing what this technology allows us to do today. This happening this morning is amazing.
yeah, absolutely.
I'm just thankful, man. Thankful for us to be able to get on here and chat about shoot.
Yeah, same with me, man. Because
Yeah,
I mean, what else? Besides like, oh, just
yeah,
watch TV. I
yeah.
mean, don't get me wrong, I like watching a little bit of TV series, but
Yeah,
but I'm like, you know what? Let's continue this podcast, see where it
yeah,
goes, and
man.
I want to be able to have other barbers tell their story,
Yeah,
in barbering life,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
their experiences, how
yeah,
was their pandemic, and
yeah,
because I spoke to a few of them, like I said,
yeah,
barbers that were struggling during the pandemic,
yeah,
mentally,
yeah,
and kept in touch with them
yeah,
throughout, and even to this day, I'm still in touch with them, and I send them like funny memes here and there
yeah,
just to
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
spark their day, and so that's one of the
That's
things that
awesome, man. Well, you
I'm.
got a good heart, brother. You always have from as long as I've known you.
Thank you, brother.
That's why you're one of
Appreciate
the
you.
people that I respect um, for what you do and for the person that you are. I don't follow a lot of people back on social media because then I know I'll get caught up in just trying to keep track of everything. And I'm the type of guy,
Yeah,
if I follow you, like I'm liking all your stuff. And you think that I'm liking your stuff. So
yeah.
I try to keep the numbers small and just so I don't spend too much time on social media. But I'm thankful for our relationship on there and just being
Yeah,
able to follow
thank you,
your
brother.
journey. And I'm proud of you for what you do, man, and your
Thank you.
growth.
Same as well, dude. I
Thank you,
mean,
brother.
your whole journey,
Yeah,
everything, your story,
yeah.
you know, like that book that Rob,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
that was
American
super
Barbershop.
dope,
Yeah,
dude. I was like,
yeah.
when I saw your photo in there, I'm like, oh shit, my man got in. I'm like, yes, he's in. I was like, that is dope,
Yeah,
And
thank
Rob
you.
is a great guy. I love that guy.
Amazing. Yeah, man. Yeah. I love what he does for our trade, man.
Yeah, I want to get his new book, the basketball one, because he
Yeah.
did the exact same
That's
thing
in
with the
here.
basketball. I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
I want that book,
Yeah.
and I think he's
Yeah.
getting a new badge, or he got a new badge. So I
Okay.
gotta reach out to him, and
Okay. Well,
you
shout
know,
out to Rob, man, for what he
yeah,
does for us and for me being humbly being allowed to get into that second edition book, and then
yeah,
even allowing me to, the blessing and the honor to write the forward for his last book, to be able to
yeah,
write that was that was I felt very fortunate to be able to do that. So
absolutely.
yeah, man. So
Well, thank you, Mark, for coming
bro,
in and spending some time with me, chit chat.
yeah, man, it's been a pleasure. It's
We
been a
gotta get
pleasure,
it.
man.
We gotta get an episode 2 later on in the future,
Oh, of
and
course, you know me.
you know,
I'll whatever you're doing, man. Just reach out. That's an automatic yes,
I
man.
appreciate you,
And one of
brother.
these days we'll have this in person, face to
Oh,
face. That's long overdue. So
Yes, it is. It's
yeah,
long
man.
overdue. There's a few that I haven't seen in a while. I
Yeah,
reached out to Drew Tip Top,
yeah,
and he's
mhm,
like, dude, I was just out in Cali like a few
yeah.
days ago, and I'm like, bro, you should have reached out. Would have
I just
got
gotta
some
make it. I just
coffee.
gotta come down that way, make a road trip, and stop at my favorite places and meet y'all guys, man. It's
Yeah,
only what it's a nice 6 hour drive. Slow drive down from the Bay Area. So
yeah,
make it happen soon.
yeah.
Yeah,
Once everything opens up,
yeah,
same
yeah,
thing. I like going camping, so
yeah.
we plan to go to Yosemite, then go up to Santa
Oh yeah,
Barbara, make our way up
nice.
north, and swing around. So
Yeah,
I
let me
got I
know.
actually have a on my phone. I got a list of shops that I want to visit on the way
Okay,
up, and
nice.
so I'm like, all right,
Oh, you let me
give it a
know,
shot.
man. Yeah, we'll welcome you with open arms for sure, man.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. And same
Yeah,
here, dude.
yeah,
Whenever you want to come to South OC,
yeah.
Orange County,
Yep.
it's not the real Housewives of Orange County the way
I ain't
they
gonna
see
see
on
no
TV.
housewives. I'm single, man. I need to go out there and find some.
Is that what you think? Like South Orange County, people are like, "Oh my God, you live in Orange County, like the original house." I'm like, nowhere near that. That shit was filmed in L.A., Hollywood. You know, that shit don't exist in Orange County.
Ah, damn it.
You know, so yeah, you're more than welcome to stop
Right
by,
on,
brother.
bro.
Come down. Mi
Thank you,
casa
man.
su casa anytime.
Thank you, bro. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. I appreciate you. Have a
Yeah,
great
keep doing
day.
what you're doing, man. I love you. I appreciate you, man. Enjoy that
Love you too,
family of
brother.
yours.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
man. And yeah, keep much success with this podcast. I know it's got great things ahead of it, bro. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you, brother. Have a
All right,
wonderful
man. We'll
day.
talk to you
I'll talk to you
soon.
soon.
All right, bro.